Hello, my name is Mara Harden and welcome to Mara Harden Ministries, Christian Cognitive Behaviour Therapy Tutorials. This is Thoughtful Video 4 in our series. We've been talking about styles of thinking in Thoughtful Video 3, and today I'm going to talk about a few other ways that we can start to look at our thoughts in different ways. Have you ever been to the art gallery and you've looked at different types of art? You know, up on the walls, sometimes we have these amazingly old sort of masters and they've got these amazing gilt frames on them. Sometimes even a small painting has a huge frame. Back in the time when those paintings were made and the frames were put on, the frame was there to bring emphasis to the picture in the middle. You know, our situations that we go through life, we can also look at our thinking and recognize that we have put it through a certain frame. We are looking at it like a picture in a gallery. Now, it's possible to change the frame on a picture and make the look of the picture quite different. I'm just going to suggest that it's possible with our thinking to also step back from it a little bit and try to see it through a different frame. Our frames that we look through our life situations often mean that we are fairly fixated on something in our situation, in our life events. But if we're able to look at it through the different frame, it might actually look quite different. Okay, that's one way that we can start to see a different perspective. So I called it reframing. We can reframe our thoughts in a different way. Another example, it's another metaphor, is actually we can refocus. Right now I'm looking into a camera lens, but there are lots of things that have lenses. Telescopes have lenses, microscopes have lenses, cameras have lenses, our glasses have lenses. Every time we look through a lens, it changes our focus. So I need these glasses in order to read clearly. But if I don't have those glasses, I see things in a fuzzy way. Similarly, when we look through a camera lens, we can adjust the focus so that the focus is near to the lens, or we can adjust the focus so that it's broad or wide, like a panoramic scale. See how the same picture can be looked at through different lenses. What would happen if you were to look at your situation that you've been thinking about, that's been causing you some negative feelings or negative thoughts, and see it with a different lens? What would it be like if you could see the panorama, the things that you might have not focused on because you were drawn into the problem, the difficult thing right in the middle? What if you're able to step back enough to see like a bigger picture, like, you know, the scenery, the surroundings, the potential things that also impacting the middle focus that you had previously? It might give you a different way of looking at your thoughts. Now I'm going to suggest something else. You know, we look at our thoughts, like I said, with a lens, and our lens comes from our past experiences. Well, if I had dirty lenses, like I'm looking through a fuzzy, uncleaned lens, it will impact the picture that I'm seeing in front of me. If I'm looking through a cracked lens, there will be a crack on everything that I see in front of me. And similarly, you know, if we're taking a picture through a camera lens and it's got, you know, a big smudge on the lens, it's going to impact the quality of the picture that we get at the other end. What would happen if we were able to recognize that our lens that we've been looking at through has got some problem and we were able to replace it with a different lens? This is Christian Cognitive Behaviour Therapy. It's where we start to say, I need to have God's perspective on what I'm going through. So God's perspective means it's sort of like a top-down looking at my situation through this eyes of eternity. Because God is outside of time. He sees the beginning, the end. He sees all the bits in the middle. But he also sees how it all will unfold. What would happen if I was able to, in my momentary meditations, ask God, What do you see? What is important about this thing? What are the things that you are bringing into my awareness so that I can see things from your perspective, your top-down perspective, your being able to see from outside of our time scale. Often our thinking is very much related to the situations we're going through at this moment. But God has a long-term view. His view is that our character and our development and our becoming like Jesus is important. The little things that we go through, the tough trials, often they're little testing things that we go through for training us. But if we don't see them as training grounds, we will try and do everything to try and to stop them happening. The negative things, the challenges, the conflicts, they are all part of training us and developing our character. So if I start to put on a lens that God has for our situation, I will start to look at those things differently than what I did before. So these are two skills that I teach my patients and clients. One is reframing, looking at your situations through a different frame, and the other one was refocusing, using a different lens or a different perspective to see things that I might have missed before. For an exercise, I'm going to suggest that you actually take time to look at perspective. You know, I do drawing and artwork. Sometimes it's worthwhile in your journaling to actually do a drawing of something that you're seeing in front of you, and then to try and imagine what it would look like to someone who is looking at the same scenario but from a different angle from you. It's that space of being able to see something differently because you're sitting in a different position. It's perspective. It's learning how to see things from different angles. And in our thinking, we need to learn to do that too. So, as an exercise, do a drawing. I know no one's here to judge your drawing, but just do a drawing, things that you see in front of you. Then move to a different location and look at the same thing from a different angle. See, it's trying to see things differently from that same situation that you're looking at. A 90-degree angle will show something different. You might notice things that you hadn't noticed before when you were straight in front of something that you were trying to write or draw in your journal. So have a go at that as an exercise. Let's see how we go with that. And I probably will ask you some questions in my quizzes as you go so that you can reflect on this exercise. And the next step will be to try and do that with your thoughts. Trying to think of your thinking and how somebody else might view it, and possibly how God might view it too. That's it for our thoughtful video for today. Join me for the next in the series. The prayer that Paul wrote for each of us, that the whole family in heaven and earth is named under Christ Jesus. That he would grant to us the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might through his Spirit in the inner man, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of Christ which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God. It's a great, great verse.